9 verses, it says, "Now the whole earth had one language and one speech. It came to pass that as they journeyed from the east, they found a plain in the land of Shinar, and they dwelt there. And they said to one another, 'Come, let us make bricks and bake them thoroughly.' And they had brick for stone, and they had asphalt for mortar. They said, 'Come, let us build ourselves a city and a tower whose top is in the heavens. Let us make a name for ourselves, lest we be scattered abroad over the face of the earth.' And the Lord came down to see the city and the tower which the sons of men had built. And the Lord said, 'Indeed, the people are one, and they have one language. And this is what they began to do. Nothing that they purpose to do will be withheld from them. Come, let us go down. Let's confuse their language, that they may not understand one another's speech.' So the Lord scattered them abroad from there over the entire face of all of the earth, and they ceased from building the city. Therefore, its name is called Babel, because the Lord confused the language of all of the earth, and from there the Lord scattered them abroad over the face of the earth." Amen. And so just let's get a little historical, facts here. So first of all, in Genesis, Adam and Eve sinned. The judgment pronounced, or the prophetic judgment pronounced, was that from the seed of the woman, Jesus, would give Satan's seed, Antichrist, a mortal blow. He'd destroy him. But Jesus would suffer a painful bruise. We've seen man begin to multiply on the face of the earth. But the thing was, Satan looked now at the woman, and the woman was the enemy. Her offspring was the enemy, because he knew that someone was coming that was going to destroy. So he tried to destroy the seed. So his first attempt was to corrupt the seed through angelic infiltration into humanity. We see that in the time of Noah. And God had to destroy the earth and just restart again with Noah. So by the time we get to this point in history, here's the second attempt to try to take humanity and drive humanity to try and get to heaven themselves. That's the tower, to reach up into heaven. We don't need God. We can build it ourselves. We can get to heaven ourselves. But also their entire thinking process was one world government. And so it was, we are one together. We're going to cooperate together. We're going to share the earth together. We don't need God. We can build a tower to heaven to get to it ourselves. We can do what we want on the earth without regard to God. So God came down, and he did a couple of things. One is he confounded their languages. So people began to speak differently, and they couldn't understand one another. So their communications were cut off. And the second thing he did was he scattered them throughout the earth. And so we see that nations began to build, and it started with cities. So Jerusalem was like the first Israel. So it was a city originally. It was, groupings and smaller groupings. When we get to the book of Acts, in the book of Acts, in chapter 17, it says, "For God who made the world and everything in it, since he is the Lord of heaven and earth, does not dwell in the temple made with hands, nor does he worship with men's hands as though he needed anything, since he gives life and breath to all things." Everything that lives, God gives breath to. "He made from one blood," that's Adam and Eve, "every nation of men who dwell on the face of the earth, and has determined their pre-appointed times and boundaries." So God formed nations. God formed boundaries and nations so that they should seek the Lord in the hope that they might find him. And so when I look at this, just as from a high level, when understanding God and understanding Satan, there's a couple of things that I see through history. One is God planned for sovereign nations so that the earth would be fragmented. But Antichrist's plan, because there were 6 Antichrists so far, the beast with the 7 heads, Antichrist's plan has always been for one world government, and they strive for an atheistic Babylonian system that would eventually turn on God's people and try to eradicate them from the face of the earth. It happened first with the Egyptians, and then it went to the Assyrians, it went to the Babylonians, it went to the Persians, it went to the Greeks, and it went to the Romans. So all of those governments formed one world governments and conquered the known world at that time, most of the known world at that time. And all of them tried to eradicate God's covenant people, the Jews and the Romans, the Christians and the Jews. So we see that. So there's, this has been his plan. Now, 6 of those 7 heads have happened. The one head, the future Antichrist, which I believe is coming very soon, his structure is being set up now. Like all of those nations had, what is an Antichrist nation? It's a government that moved toward world domination, who is led by a man who is thought to be both God and man. So you have Rome, right? Caesar was thought to be God and man. Pharaoh was thought to be God and man. King Nebuchadnezzar was thought to be God and man. And so, but their whole thought process was, it was one central government. They owned everything. They controlled everything. And then an Antichrist came along that turned that nation against God's covenant people. He used that platform, right? So that platform, I don't want to get into a lot of doctrine here, but that platform set up by the great harlot of Babylon, which she sets up the government, the financial structure, political structure, and then Antichrist walks into it. And that's what we're seeing today. I believe we're seeing today. So there's a diverse group of academics, political leaders from a lot of Western democracies, large corporations, the wealthiest individuals on the face of the earth, corporations including media and technology, science, innovation, titans of industry, all coming together with the same idea of building a one world government. They call it many different things. They call it the Great Reset. They call it the New World Order. We see it not just in Democrats, we see it in Republicans, we see it in all facets. I mean, George Bush Sr. said, that there's a new forming of a new world order, right? And so this idea of academics from colleges and political leaders and large corporations, the wealthiest individuals, foundations, scientists, technology, media, all coming together to reshape the world in the name of making humanity better. Removing government sovereignties to allow for a one world government. So in our nation, I mean, we are of the people, by the people, and for the people. This is completely contrary to what we believe, that we have individual freedoms. We elect our leaders that make an agenda, based on what we want, right? And here we're like the Paris Climate Accords. We signed an agreement, or we're party to an agreement that essentially enforced the will of a national governing body on the citizens of the U.S. So they're telling us the carbon emissions and the things that we should do and shouldn't do. We see that with electric vehicles. We see that with electric stoves. We see that with not eating meat. These are all things that we're not used to. I mean, in our government, our country works this way. We have individual freedoms to pursue happiness, to pursue prosperity, to pursue freedom. So no one forces a product on us. The market demands the product. So if we want red cars, or we want gas stoves, the market will produce the product for the demand from the people. So the government is not involved in that process. What they do is they protect us by don't make lead paint, right? Don't put arsenic in these products. And so, sometimes they can go too far, and sometimes they fall short. But the idea is that we, and when I say the U.S., I say the known free world. I mean, Canada, Australia, England, all of the European democracies, we grew this way. It was, we drove the innovation. The government did demand us to do things. And so we are now faced with a group who has a political ideology. They believe in this. They believe that the world would be a better place, a cleaner place, but the idea is that they're taking our way of life and forcefully changing it, by driving by getting rid of drilling and energy independence, gas doubled. I mean, everybody can see it. One day it was one price, and 3 months later it was a different price because of an ideology. It wasn't the market driving it. It wasn't companies making innovation to make profits, to drive costs down, and to make the consumers happy. It was a government taking authority to make changes, right? And so it's the same thing with meat, taxing meat. And so this is why this is so uncomfortable for us. Now, in their eyes, they think they're saving the earth, they're saving the world. You're going to see in our video today. But the problem is that this gives tremendous control to the government. Now, when you look at governments and you look at how they're formed and what they do, our government was formed for the people, by the people. And so an ideology like this, we're not electing the officials that are calling the shots. Our politicians that buy into that and drink the Kool-Aid of that, they believe in that. They're forming deals that forge things in our life. I mean, I love my gas stove. They're telling me that one day I might not be able to keep a gas stove. So it doesn't make any sense. The market always drives the demand, even when it comes to pollution. The government pushed them along, but companies made great strides in pollution. It's the same thing with critical race theory. The country was making its way to healing race relations until they came in and divided it. And so, but this is ideology. They think that they're right. So when we look at the World Economic Forum, this is the group. They meet in Davos once a year, but there's several breakout meetings. The group was initially put together to help Europeans compete with Americans, and now it's all one group. And again, it's people from academics. It's, some of the biggest colleges and most elite colleges in the world, political leaders. Virtually every political leader of every nation, including ours, goes to it. Large corporations, you'll hear of a bunch of them in our videos. The wealthiest individuals, George Soros, Bill Gates, all of the guys that put Google together, the guy that put Amazon together, they're all there. And so they're trying to reshape the world. They're trying to reset the world, remove government sovereignty for a one world government, to drive a green agenda, and to make equity. So in other words, we're prospering, and we have a consumption rate of world goods and services at X. They want to bring us down and bring other countries like Nigeria and other nations up. And so this isn't done through the free market. This isn't done through innovation. This is done through redistribution of wealth. And the redistribution of wealth is not based on your talents or your abilities. What they do is they get rid of exceptionalism and bring us to a point where we're just taking from you because you're exceptional and you can make profit. We're going to tax you, and we're going to just give it to this other group of people. And so that doesn't work. We've seen it, and the Soviet Union fell apart. And so, they have significant control. And the thing is, for us, they're atheistic. I mean, Yuval Noah Harari, either our last or session before blog, we looked at him. He's atheist in nature. He believes that half of the world is useful idiots, as his terms, not mine. And so this group has influence in our nation. Roughly half of our country is calling for this and wanting this. And so it's very uncomfortable. And so the point is that Christianity's in the crosshairs. As we looked at Saul Alinsky's book, as we looked at the ESG score and some of the other broadcasts that we've had, Christianity's in the crosshairs, because Christianity is me serving God and not my government, And so this is all being put together under our nose. Let's watch. I have a compilation of about 6 videos here, so it's a little lengthy, but watch to the end, because in it you'll see that one of their goals, and it's a stated goal, that dependence on the United States needs to be reduced greatly. So in their crosshairs, even though it's American companies and American innovators, they think the United States has too much say in the world. Now, we've used that say, we've used that power, we've used that strength to enforce democracies, to feed the poor, to to bring innovation to the world. Yet one of their goals, as you'll see, is that you and I don't own anything anymore, and our country isn't as influential in the world as it is now. That doesn't make me feel right, since we've been using our power not to go in and take over a country like Ukraine. We've used our power to help countries like Ukraine and others stay free. Anyway, let's watch our first set of videos, and then we'll be right back. And again, stay with it. It's a little bit long. I pulled fragments. I found a guy that really, he has his own blog, but he really did a good job of laying out the points. I had about 6 videos, and he got rid of 4 of them. So anyway, watch it, and we'll be right back.
It's pretty extraordinary that we, select group of human beings, because of whatever touched us at some point in our lives, are able to sit in a room and come together and actually talk about saving the planet. I mean, it's so almost extraterrestrial.
First say, this is my first time at Davos, and I find it quite a bewildering experience, to be honest. I mean, 1,500 private jets have flown in here to hear Sir David Attenborough speak about, how we're wrecking the planet. And I mean, I hear people talk in the language of participation and justice and equality and transparency. But then, I mean, almost no one raises the real issue of tax avoidance, right? And of the rich just not paying their fair share. I mean, it feels like I'm at a firefighters conference and no one's allowed to speak about water. I mean, this is not rocket science. I mean, we can talk for a very long time about all these stupid philanthropy schemes. We can invite Bono once more, but come on, we gotta be talking about taxes. Yeah, exactly. That's it, taxes, taxes, taxes. All the rest is in my opinion.
Founded World Economic Forum in 1971 as a not-for-profit foundation, it is headquartered in Geneva, Switzerland. It was originally called the European Management Forum, and initially his focus was in the meetings on how European firms could catch up with the U.S. management practices. This is their mission statement: engage business, political, academic, and other leaders of society to shape global, regional, and industry agendas. Mission is committed to improve the state of the world. So far, sounds pretty good. They made a prediction on what they think is going to happen in 2030, 8 of them, which I think it's important for you to know. Here's some of the predictions. Number 1, you'll own nothing and you'll be happy. By the way, this is from their website. This is a video they produced. Number 2, the U.S. won't be the world's leading superpower. Instead, a handful of countries will dominate. Number 3, you won't die waiting for an organ donor. Instead, we won't transplant organs. We'll print new ones. Very interesting. Number 4, you'll eat much less meat. If you like meat, you're kind of screwed here. Number 5, 1 billion people will be displaced by climate change. We'll have to do a better job at welcoming and integrating refugees. Sounds very noble, but who knows what that means? If the world's only going to be ran by 5 countries, there's not a superpower. So can they just choose to say this 10 million will be moving to your state? This 8 million is going here. They get to choose that if that's what integration means. Number 6, polluters will have to pay to emit carbon dioxide. There will be a global price on carbon. This will help make fossil fuels history. Number 7, you could be preparing to go to Mars. Oh my God, can you imagine how they're trying to sell the people around the world? Scientists will have worked out how to keep you healthy in space. Science will work out how to keep you healthy in space. The start of a journey to find alien life. Number 8, Western values will have been tested to the breaking point. Checks and balances that underpin our democracies must not be forgotten. How do you feel right now? Are you like watching this saying, there's no way this is true? Let me go Google this myself. Go ahead and do it. Pause the video, check it for yourself, and then come back and you'll see this is what they're telling you. If they're selling you a dream, man, this is awesome. I can't wait to live this life. Well, then follow whatever they're telling you. But if this is a nightmare type of a situation coming from their mouth, to you, you may want to investigate these guys before we see them as experts and honorable leaders that we subscribe to whatever they tell us to do. Now, here's their objectives. I'm going to read to you from their website. Stay tuned. Let me just read it to you. It's not going to sound real, but let me read it to you. Reimagining capitalism. This is being said by people who have never ran a business before. Klaus Schwab is not a businessman. He pays himself $1 million a year, but he's not a businessman. He's hurting small businesses like you and I who run businesses. He's not a fan of you. He wants to control you because he thinks he knows what's best for you. Slowing population growth. They're not saying depopulation. It's more like saying slowing population growth. It's a little bit more gentle. And Yuval Harari, who is their number 2 guy at World Economic Forum, said the following about you. Humans are now hackable animals. Are you a hackable animal? That's what the number 2 guy at World Economic Forum thinks about you and me. How do you feel about that? Isn't this exciting? Like we're learning about an organization that you're just excited about, right? So how does this thing operate? What do they do? This organization meets annually in Davos, Switzerland. It convenes regional summits, industry summits, and other events around the world. Their revenue streams is funded through world's most significant business entities who join the forum as members and partners in order to participate. Approximately 1,000 corporations hold memberships in World Economic Forum, including Google, Apple, Microsoft, Amazon, and many others, which we'll take a look at. Membership and partnership fees varies from $60,000 annually to $595,000 annually, according to Bloomberg. And in 2022, there were approximately 2,000 delegates, including Al Gore, John Kerry, Christine Lagarde, Jen Stoltenberg, Ursula von der Leyen, Henry Kissinger, George Soros, and many other high-profile names. You may be curious about the financial statement, what kind of money they're making, what kind of money they're paying out. This is what it looks like. In the last 6 years, in 2017, they had total expenses of $278 million, of which they paid $108 million to staff and $170 million to office and activity, and that led all the way down to today, 2022, $383 million in expenses, $130 million to staff, $252 million to office and activity. 383, it's a good number, what they're spending every year, and they're able to get a lot of money from a lot of big names. I'll read you some of the companies right now, but you may ask, why are companies partnering with World Economic Forum? Here's what McKinsey said on what the benefits are to join World Economic Forum. WF partners with many international organizations and corporations to run projects addressing global concerns. This year, collaborations are focused on pursuing a net zero pathway, nurturing resilience, reimagining globalization, and supporting diversity, equity, and inclusion, which is DEI, in every part of society. Do you see some touches of ESG in there? I kind of read that. The DEI equals ESG, CEI, Corporate Equity Index score, all that stuff. That's kind of what you're hearing from one of the biggest consulting firms in the world, McKinsey. Now, if you're wondering what other companies are part of, let's read through some of the lists here that you may know. Accenture, AIG, Alibaba, Allianz, Amazon, Bain & Company, Bank of America, Barclays, Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, BlackRock, Boston Consulting Group, BP, Bridgewater Associates, Chevron, Cisco, Citi, the Coca-Cola Company, Dell Technologies, Deloitte, Deutsche Bank, DHL Group, EY, which is Ernst & Young, Goldman Sachs, Google, Hewlett-Packard, HP, HSBC, Huawei, IBM, Intel, Johnson & Johnson, JP Morgan & Chase, KPMG, Lazard, MasterCard, McKinsey & Company, Meta, Microsoft, Mitsubishi, Morgan Stanley, Nestle, Open Society Foundation, George Soros, Palantir, PayPal, PepsiCo, Pfizer, PwC, Procter & Gamble, Qualcomm, Royal Philips, Salesforce, Sequoia Capital, Siemens, Sony, S&P Global, Swiss Re, Uber Technologies, UBS, Verizon, Visa, Volkswagen, Volvo, Zurich Insurance Group. See how many different industries, massive companies, multi-billion dollar behemoth companies are members and they're coming together? What's the whole purpose of this? It's a globalism to control what the smaller people don't get to do. They make the decision that's best for you. Kind of gets you thinking a little bit, right? Makes you want to be a little bit skeptical. But let's go a little bit deeper. What are some of the initiatives? The first one, which is kind of interesting. Remember earlier I said Nostradamus? Check this out. The Great Reset. You want to know what book Klaus Schwab wrote and when? Here's a question for you. The book this guy wrote, the book's title is COVID-19, The Great Reset, written by Klaus Schwab. Ready for the release date? July 2020. Do you know when COVID shut down America and it was a mess, NHL, NBA, all that stuff? Mid-March. You either wrote the book, published the book, drafted the book, printed the book in 3-4 months, or you kind of timed it very well. How did you know? See what I'm saying? Kind of makes you think, don't it? Am I the only crazy one, or are you kind of processing that as well? So when people say the timing's a little off, you got to give those people a little bit of credibility for questioning the timing. What a perfect timing of a book. Watch how he speaks when he's talking about this Great Reset. You ready? Tell me if this sounds like a welcoming language. Just tell me, you know how people talk to you, welcoming language? Tell me what this sounds like. Every country from the United States to China must participate. Not shall, not ought to, must participate. And every industry, from oil and gas to tech, must be transformed. In short, We need a great reset of capitalism. Who are you to know what we need from a man who's never ran a business before? All you do is raise money, getting Europe to compete against US because US was your enemy. Somehow you fooled US to come and join WEF. Now we must do what you want us to do. Since when does the world run this way? But wait for this. Famous line. You'll own nothing and be happy. Do you own anything? Are you happy? Do you live in a house you own? Is this your phone? Are you wearing the clothes you own? Do you like owning stuff that's yours, that you worked hard for? Well, according to him, you ain't gonna own none of that stuff, but you're still gonna be very happy. Number 2 is another book that he wrote. He called it The Fourth Industrial Revolution. In this book, he describes the convergence of digital, biological, and physical innovations. It encompasses advances such as artificial intelligence, robotics, the Internet of Things, autonomous vehicles, predictive healthcare, and digital identities, focused on societal implications of these rapid technological changes. And the 4 revolutions he talks about is the first one is 1784, steam, water, mechanical production equipment, 1870 is the second one, division of labor, electricity, and mass production, 1969, electronics, IT, automated production, and cyber physical systems. And the third one, stakeholder capitalism, which is one of his favorites, by the way. Stakeholder capitalism is a system which corporations are oriented to serve the interests of all their stakeholders. Sounds noble, okay? Among the key stakeholders are customers, suppliers, employees, shareholders, and local communities. Again, sounds noble if it's by choice, not by force. Under this system, a company's purpose is to create long-term value and not to maximize profits and enhance shareholder value at the cost of other stakeholders. This is how companies go out of business. And last but not least, World Economic Forum has been a proponent of this model, emphasizing a move away from the short-term shareholder value to long-term sustainable growth and responsibility. Once again, if he knew how to do this, why didn't you start your own company and do this yourself? Why force others to do something that you've never done before? You've never started a company. These are valid questions to ask, which I would love to meet Klaus Schwab and do an interview with him to ask these respectful questions that many others have for someone like Klaus. And number 4 is Young Global Leaders Program, which he launched in 2004. It seeks to identify and nurture the next generation of leaders, recognizes individuals under 40 for their professional accomplishments, commitment to society, and potential to contribute to shaping the future. 1,400 members, alumni of 120 nationalities, includes civic and business innovators, entrepreneurs, technology pioneers, educators, activists, artists, journalists, and many more. This list includes, and I'm going to read some more names for you. Are you ready? Putin's one, Trudeau's another one, Merkel, Macron, Newsom, Yarden, and many others. And by the way, they divided by different industries. Let me read you some other names that you may know. Pete Buttigieg, Chelsea Clinton. I know her husband is a friend, okay, a friendly podcast guest we've had before. Nikki Haley, Adam Kinzinger, Jonathan Soros, son of George Soros, Lawrence Summers, Paul Krugman. In the media space, Fareed Zakaria, Anderson Cooper, Sanjay Gupta, Andrew Ross Sorkin, Thomas Friedman, George Stephanopoulos, Lachlan Murdoch, Maria Bartiromo. Now here's for technology and social media. Bill Gates, Steve Ballmer, Bezos, Sergey Brin and Larry Page, Eric Schmidt, Peter Thiel, Mark Zuckerberg, Sheryl Sandberg. From Great Britain, Tony Blair, Niall Ferguson, Charles Allen. Remember how I told you Tulsi, Musk, and Vivek? All 3 were nominated, but they said, not interested. We're okay. You don't need to recognize us. Thank you, but thank you. So again, you pick and choose. You may be watching the same. I want to get nominated for this. Great, you can go get nominated for this guy. But you may say, I don't really want to get nominated. Well, here's what some people who said good things about him said, and here's what some people said bad things about World Economic Forum. Let me read both of them to you. Number 1, Al Gore, boiling the oceans, creating these atmospheric rivers and the rain bombs and sucking the moisture out of the land and creating the droughts and melting the ice and raising the sea level and causing these waves of climate refugees. It's kind of like, is that an encouraging message? If you listen to this, you almost want to go to space to leave Earth. Don't just like, end of the world here. And that's positive to say good things about World Economic Forum. But let me give you some of the other side. Here's what Ron DeSantis said. The elites in the Davos World Economic Forum want to run everything and turn everybody else on the planet into a serf or peasant. Tucker said the World Economic Forum seems to exist to destroy national economies. Musk rips World Economic Forum, unelected world government. And I'll read this one to you for somebody from the Labour Party, Swiss Labour Party, liberal, left, progressive, like an Antifa of Swiss. Here's what Alexander Enlin had to say about this. The main yearly meeting of CEOs of transnational corporations and bourgeoisie politicians from leading capitalist countries who discuss without any democratic legitimacy nor any control from the people questions that concern everyone. The countries of the global south have nothing to say about decisions that will harm them. This kind of forum shows the fundamentally anti-democratic, oligarchic nature of our system. The protection of the environment is also a major discussion in the World Economic Forum. However, every year, 1,000 private jets fly to Davos, which is equal to the pollution emitted by 300,000 cars altogether. Man, they really care about this climate change stuff and protecting it for you and I. So how excited are you right now? Are you still saying, well, Pat, this is a little crazy. Come on, man. You guys are overselling it. No problem. You ever had insects? Have you ever eaten insects? Well, I'm going to read this to you from their website just a year ago, February 2022. 5 reasons why eating insects could reduce climate change. Not private jets. Not private jets. Even Mario's laughing. Insects could reduce climate change. Number 1, edible insects can produce equivalent amounts of quality protein when compared to animals. How awesome is that? Insects require less care and upkeep than livestock. Number 3, we're actually running out of protein. Number 4, insects are part of virtuous eco-cycle. Why don't you be virtuous and eat more insects? And number 5, you can start small and work your way up. It's just, why would you not want to eat insects? Isn't this noble? Doesn't it get you emotional thinking about how much they care about us? Who cares about you as much as they do? Who else makes you eat insects to live a healthier life? Eco. Who else makes you do that? Noble people at World Economic Forum. Look, I got to tell you, I like talking to everybody. And I give everybody the benefit of the doubt. I'm telling you, I would love to talk to Klaus Schwab sincerely. I would love to fly out to Geneva to sit down and talk to this guy, wherever he lives. I'd love to go to his place and have a conversation with him. Klaus, this doesn't make any sense. There is no selling the dream. Everything is force, must, you better. All of this, that's just not the American way. And I feel you don't like the American way because the American way allows for us to choose, free to choose. If somebody wants to eat insects, go for it. Put mayonnaise on it, put mustard, hot sauce, whatever you want to do. But you can't say and fool American people saying eating insects is good for you. So if you're watching this saying, I don't know, man, I've heard a lot about World Economic Forum. I'm just verifying everything you're saying, Pat. This kind of stuff is adding up. It's kind of weird. Insects, cashless society, carbon tax, social credit score. Do you want to have a social credit score on how you voted, on how you eat? You got, like, your FICA allows you to get a loan to buy a house. Now imagine your social credit score. Which way you going to vote? Hey, do you notice how you want to know? No, we can't give you this.
Time for the Hot Topic Buzz. So get this, the World Economic Forum is now looking to reduce ownership of private vehicles. Yes, the forum is claiming that this is a way to reduce global reliance on critical metals like cobalt and lithium as they make a push toward green energy. Dig in, give up your car, why don't you?
Yeah, the World Economic Forum sponsors that little get-together, that boondoggle in Davos every year. Why do major private CEOs even go to that thing? If these are the policies that the World Economic Forum are espousing, they're essentially trying to take away your free will. Oh, you can't drive a car. And again, trying to apply the ideas out of Europe onto the United States. Europe has a lot of mass transit. It's a very small continent. And North America, not so much. So stick that idea where the sun doesn't shine.
Well, I have gone to Davos for 20 years for the World Economic Forum, and it's always been an incredible opportunity to hobnob with the leaders of the world. It is incredibly well attended every year. So for some reason, everybody's getting together globally. It has been the place that all of these people meet every year. You're right. Leo, your thoughts on the ideas of going green and taking away your private vehicle?
Well, obviously, when we think about the history of motor vehicles, cars, and other transportation, it has lifted millions, hundreds of millions of people out of poverty. and has changed the dynamic of how we all live and the quality of our lives. So yes, while we all want a clean economy and we want a climate that is sustainable, the reality is that a collapsing economy isn't the answer. So there has to be a balance, and unfortunately, in today's bifurcated world, we get a little bit too much extremism. So hopefully we can bring some sense back into it.
Yeah, by the way, those CEOs that go to Davos, many of them, they go on their own private jet.
So welcome back. As you can see, this isn't something that you and I voted for. This isn't something that we want. I mean, we have the greatest of all things in this nation, and when you look at Europe, you look at England and Germany, and the same thing. I mean, there's citizens of the world, the world democracies are being forced into something where their country's sovereignty is reduced, and globalism is in place, where global accords telling us how to live by unelected officials. I mean, it's just contrary to democracy, and so and at the face of it is a cult religion of a green earth. I mean, when you say that, man, because what were they doing in Babylon? They were trying to manage and fix the earth. These guys are trying to manage and fix the earth. Well, God created the earth. God created man. God is not going to allow man to destroy the earth, because we've read the Bible and we know what happens to the earth. We know what happens in Great Tribulation. We know when Jesus comes back, the earth is still here. It's going to be beaten and broken by war and famine and pestilence and earthquakes, which are God's judgments on the earth. But so man, can't fix the earth. Man can't fix the problems of the earth. Only Jesus Christ can do that. So, but what this is all doing, and I'll just be very bold and blunt, is this is setting up the platform for Antichrist. He will come into he'll be the 11th nation to join a 10-nation coalition, and I believe that some of these nations that are buying in and drinking this Kool-Aid are some of those 10 nations that he will join as the 11th, and then from there he'll go to world domination. And so the key point to the whole thing is to control the population, control the people. And that's the thing that our nation isn't supposed to do, nor an other democracy is supposed to do. We are supposed to be free, and don't tell me what kind of car to buy. My desires, along with the 300 million of us, will tell the auto companies what kind of cars we need or want to buy, because you have some delusion that you're going to fix God's handiwork. Like God didn't know enough to make the earth so that we can out-survive it, right? Anyway, God bless you guys. Thanks for watching. Please share this with family and friends. Sharing is important. We get censored. Please share this with family and friends. By you sharing immediately, it gets out. It grows like a weed, and others see it. Please pray about joining us as a free member. We have 2 levels. One is a free member where you give us your email and your name and email. You're connected with us. If we ever get taken down or there's issues, you're connected with us. You'll get 3 emails a week. One of them is our uncensored blog. This is our censored blog. We plan on this making it through social media standards. Our uncensored blog, we have names and dates, and we go directly at people and at folks. So you can get our uncensored blog by becoming a free member. You just go to our website. It's in your description, and become a free member, or you can become a partner. Our goal at the beginning of the year was to get 400 new partners of $25 or more. We're now looking at $10 or more. Just we want the big checks. Please, if you want to send a big check, send it. But my goal is to have thousands of followers and those that listen to our 17 teaching broadcasts a week. We have 17 broadcasts a week in various areas that 10 and 25 and $50 and $100 donors would support us in our mission, our staff, and the other things that we need. We are raising for our platform. There's a little bit left, and we do need more monthly income to satisfy what's ahead. So pray about becoming a partner. So a free member, at least, a partner, and please share it, and that helps us grow. Also, we have a phone app And we're not driving that as hard right now because we're working on a transition, and so it's easier to transition with where we're at. But our phone app is free. Go to the Apple App Store, Google App Store, and download it for free. Just type in Watchers of Truth, and it's free. You'll get all of our broadcasts, everything we do, on your phone or your iPad. Anyway, God bless you guys. Have a great day. Hope you enjoyed it today. Let us know by liking it